This is Casio's latest flagship keyboard, the CT-S1000V, but it should really be named CT-S500V instead, because the CT-S1000V is essentially identical to the CT-S500, but with an additional vocal synthesis feature. I guess Casio's marketing department wanted regular Joes to think the CT-S1000V is mathematically twice as powerful as the CT-S500. Is the vocal synthesis feature worth the extra $90? Should Casio have instead given us more useful and better appreciated features for the higher asking price? That's what we're gonna find out in today's video. Because the CT-S1000V has all the features and functionality of the CT-S500, you should also check out my in-depth review of the CT-S500. By the way, if you're looking for a keyboard or digital piano but do not know which is more suitable for you, do check out the ones I personally recommend in the description. Just like the CT-S400, CT-S500, and the extremely popular CT-S1, the CT-S1000V has one of the best synth action keys for under $500. The key tops are textured, enhancing fingertip traction, and the keys are lightly sprung, giving it a better tactile feel versus the action of the competition. I was disappointed that a supposed flagship like the CT-S1000V doesn't have the red felt liner at the key pivots, which work to dampen key noise. The CT-S1, which costs half as much, has the felt liner strip, and I love it. I personally prefer Casio's action for playing acoustic and electric piano tones, but the key action of Yamaha PSR keyboards is better for organ, orchestral, and synth tones. $380, the 800 tones in the CT-S500 gives really good value for money. But the same 800 tones in the CT-S1000V at $470 is a different proposition altogether. At least 200 of the 800 tones sound good enough to be used in a professional environment. Another 300 tones are average but definitely usable. The remaining couple of hundred tones have the typical cheap rompler sound quality Casio most likely used in this keyboard to make up the numbers. Thankfully, the configurable DSPs, of which you can daisy chain up to 4 of them, help to shape the character of the tones to get your unique sound. Tones can also be layered or split across the keyboard, and a handy visual mixer allows you to easily tweak your volume mix. 3 performance knobs and a pitch bend wheel lets you modify DSP parameters and pitch on the fly. While all these are nice and dandy, there are a number of limitations to the sound engine. I also expected more from a flagship Casio keyboard, which I will elaborate further later in this video. There is another keyboard that sounds better for a similar price, and I'll link to it in the description. I love playing and practicing along with rhythm accompaniments, and the CT-S1000V has 243 rhythms covering a wide range of music genres from jazz to ethnic world music. However, the rhythm section is the Achilles heel of this keyboard. Not only are the instrumental accompaniments not as well programmed as those found on the competitors, the CT-S1000V lacks a number of highly coveted and requested features found on cheaper and older Casio keyboards. But more on these shortcomings later on in the video. There's a couple of keyboards with a more sophisticated rhythm accompaniment section for a similar or lower price, and I'll link to them in the description. Is the vocal synthesis feature in the CT-S1000V worth the extra $90 over the CT-S500? Well, that depends on how much chipmunk voices you can tolerate before the novelty wears thin. Keyboard vocal synthesis isn't new. 5 years ago, Yamaha gave us the Vocaloid VKB100 keyboard, which enjoyed cult success among the anime and cosplay community. Casio CT-S1000V has 100 built-in lyric phrases and 50 expansion slots for you to input your own phrases using an app. You can trigger an entire lyric phrase with a single key. Do you love chipmunk? Do you love chipmunk? Or pitch multiple syllables over a melody line. Do you love chipmunk? Just like the Yamaha VKB100, the age, gender, and type of vocals can be changed. However, you are limited to only English and Japanese words, which many non-English speaking markets will find limiting. While the CT-S1000V supports wireless Bluetooth connectivity, you will need to use a wired connection in order to use Casio's lyric creation app. This is quite a shame, as Yamaha's Vocaloid keyboard supported lyrics transmission between app and keyboard wirelessly 5 years ago. In my opinion, a $30 vocoder and TalkBox VST plugin is significantly more useful and flexible, as you can simply speak or sing in any language without having to first tediously program the words into an app like the Casio CT-S1000V. You can find out more about the $30 vocoder plugin in the description. For an extra $90 over the CT-S500, here are a couple of highly requested features Casio could have given us. Selecting voices and styles on the CT-S1000V and CT-S500 requires you to first sequentially locate the category a sound is in, and then scrolling through the list of voices in that category to find the tone you want. A simple numeric keypad found on Yamaha and previous Casio keyboards makes it so much easier to quickly select tones on the fly when performing. Link to my favorite keyboards with a numeric keypad in the description. Casio could have bumped up the polyphony on the CT-S1000V to 128 notes. It now only has a 64-note polyphony. The cheaper Roland EX50 keyboard gives us a whopping 256 notes of polyphony, and it's time Casio keeps up with the competition. Link to the cheaper Roland EX50 in the description. The CT-S500 and CT-S1000V UI has the ability to input characters, but this flagship keyboard doesn't allow us to name our user registrations. It is extremely frustrating that in 2022, we need to use a notepad to keep track of our registrations. The CT-S1000V sports a pair of paltry 2.5 watts amplifiers producing an output of 5 watts. For a similar price, the competition is able to pump out a whopping 24 watts while using batteries, in addition to having 76 keys versus the 61 keys on this CT-S1000V. Link to the 24 watts 76 keys keyboard in the description. The CT-S1000V has only 2 variations for every rhythm and has no tools for rhythm creation. Accompaniment parts cannot be turned off, and the volume mix of the accompaniment cannot be independently adjusted. There is no excuse for this shortcoming, as Casio has another keyboard which is $150 cheaper and yet comes with 4 rhythm variations, is able to create user rhythms, can independently control accompaniment volume mix as well as turn on or off accompaniment instrument parts. Link to that Casio keyboard in the description. Here are a few limitations of the CT-S1000V I encountered over the past months. They may be deal breakers for you. The onboard sequencer is a very basic linear MIDI recorder. You cannot edit any recorded data and you cannot quantize or apply swing to recorded notes. There is also no way to loop a recorded phrase on playback. System-wide global effects such as reverb, delay, and chorus do not have any editable parameters. You cannot use the wireless Bluetooth adapter and a USB stick at the same time as they utilize the same micro USB port. I found myself having to switch often between the Bluetooth adapter and the USB stick containing my samples and registration. The USB port does not transmit or receive class-compliant audio data, which the competition that costs half the price can. The CT-S1000V USB port only handles MIDI data. The DSP chains are limited to 100 presets. You cannot create custom DSP chains from the 29 DSP modules. There may be those who love the vocal synthesis on the 1000V, but I would have loved to see Casio give us a more useful feature set instead of adding the one-trick pony vocal synthesis to the CT-S500 for an extra $90 and marketing it as the flagship CT-S1000V. I prefer another similarly priced keyboard, which I'll link to it in the description. I hope you found my review helpful in your buying decision. My name is Jeremy C, and I'll see you in my next video.